You're watching Power Nation.
Today on Engine Power, we bring back our Junkyard 5.3 liter for some serious upgrades.
Forged pistons, more cam, and swap-ready components let us turn up the boost for big block power levels. Hey everyone, welcome to Engine Power. As you've probably figured out by now, we are not in our shop. We are out here where we corral all of that horsepower we build in the engine stable. Now these are engines that are complete and awaiting homes, hopefully in the future. But there's also engines here looking for some improvement, and we have one of those today, but it's back there where the skinny host is.
Yeah, what we have is our Junkyard 5.3 liter LS with a turbocharger. This is a cool engine that we brought in to show you guys exactly what it takes to put a turbo on one of these engines. It made pretty respectable power, but since then, as you can see, it's been shoved back here in the corner. It's been neglected, it's been rejected. We've had parts stolen off it. We're missing a bunch of stuff, but today we want to bring this thing back. We have a few cool upgrades to make some more power with it, and we're going to make it look way better to get it ready for that infamous turbo LS swap. But we have to get it out of here, so we're going to do that, and you can check out how we got this engine and how much power it made with the current setup. We picked up this 2009 5.3 LMG from a local salvage yard, and before we just started throwing parts at it, we ran a few checks and downed the engine naturally aspirated in its stock form as a baseline. It made a respectable 353 horsepower and 370 pound-feet. With everything looking good, we invested a little elbow grease into cleaning it up.
The turbo install consisted of a Summit Racing hot side kit that came with a right side cast exhaust manifold, a GT 7875 turbo, and twin 44mm wastegates. And then it went back on the dyno to make a solid 512 horsepower and 524 pound-feet of torque.
For the upgrades we have planned today, we are going to have to tear this engine all the way down to the block. So let's get after it.
Where do these go?
In the trash over there.
We're going to try and attempt to get some of these exhaust bolts out without breaking them. The first one, on the last iteration of this engine, snapped immediately off, but we're going to see if we can sneak them out. I'm going to be using some deep creep from Seafoam. Now, what we really like about the deep creep is that it is a penetrating oil, and this is what it is actually made to do. This is actually made to lubricate, loosen, and more importantly, get in to help free up some stuck bolts. Now, this one may be a little bit more challenging for it, but we're going to give her a shot, see what it comes out as. Putting a little heat in this thing so I can get some wicking action on this, but deep creep works good for everything, not only for getting bolts loose, but for rust protection. Deep creep is, it comes out in a nice foam, has a nice straw, so it keeps in the same place where it's supposed to be, and really works good in most applications where you just need to get in there, break up some rust, and get things loose like a good penetrating oil should. So we're going to see how it works.
Well, mine came out really easy. I don't know what the big deal is.
Oh, no way. That one actually turns. What about the one next to it?
Deep creep for the win.
Nice job, Seafoam. If you remember, we said we're going to put some cool parts on this engine. Well, it all starts with a brand new set of pistons. Now, this engine was completely stock everything, and that means it had a hyper-eutectic piston in it, which did perform admirably at our power level, but we want to push this thing a little bit harder, so we need some pistons that we're going to take the abuse. So we called up our friends at UEM, and we got a set of forged Icon pistons for it. Now, they have a bunch of different applications, no matter what you're working on, plus they have a lot for LS. Our particular one, we chose this piston, 4032 for the alloy that's in it. Has a 3cc valve relief, has a 1.5, 3 millimeter ring pack with a coated skirt. Also, we got these in 30 over because the engine had not been apart before, but we didn't know if we had to address any problems with the cylinders, and turns out it's okay, but we have to get that out to 30 thousandths oversized on the final bore. So we got it in our Sun and SV15, and we're gonna rough them out, finish them up, and get them ready for these slugs. We'll rough the cylinder out to size with a set of 150 grit diamond abrasives, letting the machine dwell as needed to keep the cylinder straight. Then, with the base of our surface profile set, we'll use a set of 600 grit abrasives to follow up for the plateau finish. This will allow our boosted engine to seal properly and still have a finish better than factory.
Next up, we lay stuff in, seal stuff up, and torque stuff down as our upgrades come together. All right, has this thing cleaned up or what? We have gotten our 5.3 fully cleaned after it was in the hone. We even threw on a nice, easy black paint job. And what we're doing now is we are gapping our rings. This is our new set that came with our UEM pistons. For these, we are gapping these for a little bit more boost than last time. We're shooting for a higher power number. So the top ring, we're gonna set at 21 thousandths, and then the second ring, we're gonna set at 23 thousandths. When we get done setting each ring, we're gonna carefully deburr it with our India stone, and then we'll check our gap in the block, making sure we have a light but even drag on the feeler gauge at the size we want. For this engine, we are going to be reusing the factory rods because these are the Gen 4 rods. These are a powdered metal crack cap design. Something we did have to do is resize the small ends. Just had to basically open them up about 2 thousandths for our 945 pins. And the other big modification we're going to be doing is upgrading the rod bolts because these come with a factory torque to yield GM rod bolt, which works fine in the OE intended purpose, but bad thing about being torque to yield is we can only reuse it about 2 or 3 times max. So we're going to be replacing it with a full set of ARP rod bolts. This is a rod bolt kit they make specifically for the LS, and the big advantage is that it is not only stronger, it's 180,000 PSI of tensile strength, it also is a reusable fastener so we can untorque it and torque it as many times as we want. And as a bonus, they designed it to have a little bit more thread engagement as well. So this is a drop-in replacement for the OE bolt, but what we're going to do is we're going to prep it properly so we can get the accurate clamp load that we need. So to prep these, we are going to apply ARP's Ultra Torque Fastener Assembly Lubricant. It's not necessarily designed to be the absolute slickest material. It's actually designed to have a consistent amount of friction. That way, every time you torque the fastener, you get the same amount of clamp no matter what. And then we'll slide them right into our rods. Now, generally when you're replacing rod bolts, you have to resize the big end of the rod, but we have done this several times, just replace the rods, measuring everything very carefully, and haven't had any issues. So we're gonna check these and make sure we have proper and adequate bearing clearance, and then we should be good. These bolts come with specific instructions so we can torque them to 45 pound-feet to get the proper bolt stretch of 55 to 60 10,000ths of an inch. Then with a dial bore gauge zeroed to the matching rod journal, we can check our vertical oil clearance, and they all fall between 19 and 21 10,000ths.
Because the bearings look so good, we are going to reuse all of them, and the factory crank that was rebalanced with our new piston goes in to start the reassembly process. Each of the main caps are gently tapped down to get them seated and ready for fasteners. All right, with our mains in, it's time to stick in the main bolts, and that actually opens up an interesting subject about bolts and fasteners themselves and the different types and how they apply clamp load in your engine, and that is the subject of today's Summit Tech Tip. Really quick, we're going to talk about a couple of different types of fasteners by definition and function. We're going to talk about first one we've all heard of, torque to yield. What happens when you torque the fastener, it will actually extend itself, it will lengthen, and it will go past its what's called yield point. That means the bolt is permanently deformed, but it is done under clamp load. But when you remove the load, the bolt does not return to its original shape, so it does not have any elasticity to use again. So that is a one-use only thing. Now we're going to talk about what's something called torque to angle. This fastener is reusable, meaning when that load is released, the fastener returns back to its original length, and it still has its elasticity, so it can be used over and over again. Kind of what we're used to on normal fasteners. Keep in mind, both of the sequences of how these are tightened look pretty much the same. They both get a base torque setting, like 10 or 15 pound-feet, and then they both go to a certain angle, and that's what achieves clamp load. LS main fasteners are torqued to angle, so these are dropped in with some engine oil for lubrication before they are all torqued to a base setting of 15 pound-feet. Then, the inners are tightened an additional 80 degrees, and the outers are tightened an additional 51 degrees. The small side bolts get silicone under their heads to prevent leaks and are torqued to 18 pound-feet.
We are swapping the stock bump stick for a Summit Racing LS truck swap cam that has durations at 50 thousandths lift of 218 degrees on the intake and 227 on the exhaust. The lobes are set on a 112 degree LSA, and lift at the valve is 522 thousandths on the intake and 524 thousandths on the exhaust. Factory cam retaining plate is reinstalled with lube and orange thread locker on the bolts that are torqued to 24 pound-feet.
The factory tensioner assembly is reinstalled in the same manner, and the new cam uses a 3-bolt configuration instead of the stock 1-bolt. So we are trading up to a Summit single roller billet timing set with a multiple keyweight lower gear. To degree the camshaft, the number 1 piston is installed for real, and then our custom-made wheel is set up on the crank. We are going to run the cam 3 degrees advanced at 109.
Then the remaining stock rods and Icon pistons can be assembled with Hot Shots assembly lube. The new wire locks are followed by the previously gapped rings and lighter assembly lube. Each set is carefully pressed into the block in the correct orientation using a Summit Racing adjustable ring compressor. Then each rod bolt is torqued to 45 pound-feet and checked for the proper stretch again.
We already disassembled, ported, cleaned, and put an 82 thousandths shim under the return spring of the stock oil pump so it can slide back on next. Once the bolts are in, 1.5 thousandths thick shims are used to center the gears before torquing the housing in place. The stock windage tray drops back on and the stock hardware is torqued to 25 pound-feet, followed by this FiTech oil pump pickup that matches our new pan. It is also torqued in place with thread locker. In the back, the new replacement oil barbell is carefully pressed in, and then the rear cover with a new seal can be slid on, squared to the decks, and tightened down.
The front cover also got a new seal, and once all the bolts are in, this plastic sleeve centers the cover so it can be cinched tight. Small beads of RTV seal the mating surfaces, and then this new FiTech 6-quart swap oil pan can drop on. And we have already added a new oil drain bung to the side for our turbo. With the engine flipped over, a set of stock non-AFM LS3 lifters with new standard trays can slide in, and they are torqued in place to 120 pound-inches.
These replacement MLS style head gaskets follow and have a 3/880 bore and a 50 thousandths compressed thickness, which sets our static compression ratio at a safe 9.78 to 1. The 799 casting heads have been cleaned, valve jobs lapped, and the springs upgraded with a complete Summit Racing LS dual spring kit that is set up for 140 pounds of seat pressure and 340 pounds at open. A set of ARP head bolts are replacing the stock torque to yield ones for their reusability and increased clamp strength. The 11mm bolts are torqued to 80 pound-feet and the 8mm ones are torqued to 28 pound-feet.
Coming up, our 5.3 is back on the dyno with its new parts, and we're going to dyno it NA. NA all the way?
NA all the way, baby.
All right, the old Junkyard 5.3 is looking pretty good. We're going to get our valley plate on now. This is a different one that came off of it. This thing is displacement on demand, and we are going to eliminate that. This isn't actually a factory one that has that deleted. So we have O-rings that go over our holes, plugs them up, and that effectively disables the system.
Once the cover is tightened down with the stock hardware, the painted original damper can be pressed back on to seal up the front end. One of the other major upgrades we'll be doing is installing a Summit Racing roller trunnion upgrade kit in the stock rocker bodies to increase their travel and longevity. After pressing out the old bearings with the tool, the new shafts and bearings are pressed into the rocker body and snap rings are installed to retain them.
Once they are all done, the valve train can go back in using the stock push rods and rocker stands. The upgraded rockers are installed on each cylinder at TDC compression stroke in the firing order, and the factory hardware is torqued to 24 pound-feet. With everything lubricated, new FiTech valve covers will seal up the crankcase.
Okay, this is where we start to splurge on our little 5.3, and we're really upgrading it from that junkyard status we had before. So this is our new induction package, and this is actually a FiTech Nitro-Port 1,000 horsepower EFI system. So this comes with their new cast aluminum cathedral port short intake manifold. We have a 102mm fully loaded throttle body, so we're gonna get a little more airflow out of that. And this is all fully assembled, fully O-ring, so we can literally just drop it right on. Now this is gonna be paired with their Ultimate LS ECU and EFI system. It also has a full wiring harness, transmission control. It has a very nice learn function with bank-to-bank learning. We're going to be pairing that with a set of their GoSpark coils as well on top of our valve covers. These are the really cool ones that have the blue LED in them, which is also great for diagnostic. Plus, it does look way cooler.
All right, 5.3 redo, reboot, what are we gonna call it? I don't know. It's the predecessor to the new turbo stuff that we're doing with it. So what we're gonna do is we got it running, runs great, everything fired up. We're gonna make our naturally aspirated one. This is gonna be actually pretty interesting because the intake manifold has about a 6-inch shorter runner.
Well, we've changed a few things, right? So we have a little bit less static compression.
Yeah.
We have about 20 more degrees of intake duration on the camshaft, and we have, shorter height and shorter runner on the intake manifold. So basically this is a verification for the engine so that we know A, what we picked up, and also make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to before we start putting boost on it. We've already made a couple runs, got this thing tuned in. We're at 13.1 target AFR, and we are at 28 degrees of total timing. So we're gonna make a hit.
All right, we are ready to rock and roll here. All right, hold on to something, here we go. I love how smooth this thing will be.
2,500,
Yeah.
over 300 pound-feet right there.
Smooth as glass, baby.
I don't know who ported and shimmed that oil pump,
Ah,
but I saw 98 psi
Yeah,
of oil pressure.
it's got a whole bunch of oil pressure.
Okay, that is solid. 414.4 horsepower. Looks like right at 6,500, so we might have to stretch that out a little bit. And 359.6 pound-feet at 5,300, I'll call that. So that's pretty solid. AFRs look good, tracking perfectly on the 13.1.
Yep.
I think it looks great. Let's just make another run and turn it higher.
What do you think, 7,000?
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna peak over by then.
I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Here we go.
.1 horsepower. Looks like I would call that peak probably right at 6,700.
Yeah.
And picked up a little bit of torque too, 362.4. It's just getting some oil temp in
Get some
there.
oil temp in it, get a little heat in her.
Yeah.
I mean, I
think that's great.
Before,
you know?
the engine made 350 something.
353, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's great. That's awesome.
it's
Go
got-
ahead, shut it down.
now
and
time
to put the snail on it.
It's time to put the pressurization to it. So
Yeah.
away we go.
When we come back, NA goes away, and because this engine is a whole lot fresher, it's time to turn up the pressure. Building a massive amount of horsepower is always extremely fun, but when you start putting that in your project, that's when you need to start thinking about brakes. And a great kit that you can get is the USR slotted brake kit from EBC Brakes. This is a complete kit. It comes with a set of their fully coated rotors. These have a geomet coating for rust prevention. They also have their multi-slot design, which keeps pad wear even, keeps the brakes silent, and gives a place for that brake dust to go so you have consistent braking. Speaking of pad wear, we also like using their Redstuff pads because these are specifically formulated for street use. So this is a complete kit that'll get you way, way ahead of a stock or OE level brake. So next time you're making a bunch of power and sticking it in a project, make sure you get an EBC brake kit to go with it. So when we originally tried to dyno this engine with the turbo, we were having some weird issues where it was breaking up when we started to get it under load. And what we actually figured out was that the issue is our stock crank sensor. We diagnosed it, and this is the original crank sensor that came in the engine from the junkyard, and it is giving us some intermittent issues and is faulty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace it with a brand new one from Duralast. We got this from our local AutoZone, and the reason we're using this over like an OE crank sensor is because they actually designed these to be as good or better than the OE sensors as far as form, fit, and function. So what that means is they're not just copying the original design, they're actually going through and making sure that if there's any potential defects, they're fixing those before it ends up in your vehicle and is giving you problems. So we have a brand new one, we're gonna put this one in, it's gonna solve all our issues. So we picked it up basically 60, naturally aspirated. We now have our dual Summit 44mm wastegates filled with like basically 11 PSI springs. We bumped the RPM range up just a little bit to 3,000 to 7,000 just because we don't want this thing baking down
We are
low
on
with a
pump
ton of
gas.
boost. Yes, that is a key factor. As with most of our turbo builds, we are on 93 octane pump gas.
Who knows how good it is, right? So we're just gonna see how it runs and go from there. What it is what it is.
Oh, let's see what it do.
I can't watch. No, it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good. And there goes the torque.
And there goes the boost. Woo!
Let her bake a little bit, build some boost. 12 PSI.
Oh, mama. Oh yeah, I mean,
So let's see here. We
if I
got
could-
646 pound-feet right at 4,000 RPM.
Yeah.
And 660.7 horsepower right at 6,200.
Yeah.
We did hit our peak right there at 12 PSI.
Okay.
And then right around, let's call it 6,000 and up, it starts to taper off down in the high 10s. So that's
Yeah.
why that power starts to, you see it start to come off on the curve.
For what we're doing, that is spectacular, right? That,
Yeah, so-
for parts that were put in it, very, very cheap, very, very easy. Made great power, naturally aspirated. I mean, that's really, really nice.
It does it again. All right, ready?
I think that's gonna do it.
It should. It didn't care at all.
No overheat in there, yeah. Smooth.
It made 646 for torque and it made 661.8. So this thing is just eating it. Repeatable. I mean, that's a beautiful graph, makes great torque, great power. I think on the street, what more would you want, you know?
I think this is great. I mean,
Yeah.
can we do more with it? I mean, we can,
I think
because look at the opportunities. And we've done this on other engines, right? Like, okay, now what would be the next best thing, right? Well, we could probably upgrade the heads, right? We could probably we could make more boost. We are not going to take that chance. The last thing we want to do is
blow it up.
Is
Yeah.
blow the damn thing
And
up.
this is something, I mean, with inconsistency in pump gas, this is a good safe measure.
It's fun though. It is fun.
All right, time to shut her down.
Great success.